Hi, I'm Deborah Lee Baldwin, formerly with Sunset Magazine. I'm a YouTube content producer who specializes primarily in gardening with succulent plants, but today I'm going to share with you another of my passions, wild birds that come to my garden. I'm in Southern California, but you can attract birds to your yard no matter where you live. The secret is to provide food, water, and shelter. Let's meet visitors to your garden who have been watching you, and now you can watch and get to know them. Visitors I'll show you are bluebirds, doves, goldfinches, grosbeaks, hummingbirds, jays, munias, nuthatches, quails, titmice, orioles, woodpeckers, and wrens. I was sent a free bird feeder from a manufacturer who was hoping to get publicity. I filled it, set the feeder on a table on the deck, and went into the house to get a hammer and nail. When I came back, some cute little red-breasted birds had already found it. I was in love. But by then, I'd developed what I call the sunset aesthetic. The whole point of the magazine is to depict Eden in Western gardens. That bird feeder may have been efficient, but it had to go. Instead of an appealing way to attract and enjoy beautiful birds, it looked more like a prison. There are so many other options. Compare these to these. Here I used conical flower pots by a local artist to hold saucers of birdseed. Alongside them, I hung prisms that sparkle in the early morning sun. Basically, anything that'll hold birdseed will work. Partly to persuade editors to do articles about attracting and showcasing birds, I designed several ornamental feeders. I knew house finches would come to any feeder I put on the outdoor table, so I set up photos like this centerpiece made with succulent cuttings and thrift store items. I like the finch in the middle. He doesn't know what to think about food he can see, but he can't get to. I got a mourning dove to pose by putting millet around a domino cactus I staged to look like a cupcake. For a homemade hummingbird feeder, I attached a wrought iron candle holder to a post, filled its glass votive cups with sugar water, and added silk flowers held in place with floral marbles. Depending on the season, nectar needs daily refilling, and feeders can be messy, sticky insect attractors, and they can spread disease. Hummers are just as delightful to watch when they have access to plants with tubular flowers, like aloes. Aloes, which are native to South Africa, the Arabian Peninsula, and Madagascar, just love California's climate. There's at least one type of aloe in bloom at any time of the year. Hummers like their bright red and orange flowers. Aloes also are beneficial to butterflies and bees. The plants range from trees to dwarf varieties, and they do well in pots. I have several small aloes on my deck, as well as echeverias that hummers like too. Can you guess what this female Anna's hummingbird is doing? It was late January, and she was gathering nesting material from my furry paddle cactus, Opuntia polyacantha. Female hummers are single parents. They build nests, lay eggs, and raise their young with no assistance from the males. You've likely noticed if you've used coir, coconut fiber, to line hanging baskets, that birds come and pull it apart. In late winter, I provide nesting materials like the cotton that comes in pill bottles or coir. House finches, like many other birds, like suet cylinders, and if you get the ones that contain hot pepper, rats and mice won't be attracted to them. Fledglings peak in May and June. They're cute, clumsy, and wide-eyed, like this house finch. Based on the tufts of feathers on its head, it's been out of the nest only a day or two. Everything is new. Fledglings beg incessantly from their parents, which they hotly pursue. Mom and Dad show them how to use feeders, but they beg regardless. Baby behavior includes fluttering, gaping, and cheeping at Mom or Dad. Parents literally shrug their shoulders and give in, not in resignation, rather with regurgitation. For nearly 2 decades, I barely noticed the birds in my garden. I was busy looking down, tending my plants. but one bird was hard to ignore. It would perch in whatever tree was near me and make a repetitive, raspy call. It seems that spotted towhees nest on the ground in dense shrubbery, and the male was keeping track of and informing its mate of a possible predator, namely me. I'd never seen a spotted towhee fledgling, even though they nest under shrubs in the garden, and here one was right outside my kitchen window, begging for food from its mom. Where'd she go? You may wonder why these baby birds are the same size as their parents. They're altricial, meaning hatchlings are helpless, blind, and naked. Those are two open mouths, waiting to be fed. In about 2 weeks, when babies grow feathers and are strong enough to fly, nestlings become fledglings. A few garden visitors, notably California quail, have precocial offspring, meaning as soon as they hatch, the chicks can scurry after their parents and feed themselves, like ducklings or chicks. In 7 or 8 weeks, quail babies are mature enough to fly to high perches. Because I love watching a covey of quail flow down my steps, I set out millet seeds to try to get that on video. This is the closest I came. The name grosbeak refers to its strong, powerful beak. Here, a male grosbeak is about to feed its fledgling some suet. The young grosbeak began coming on its own. At least I think that's a baby. As with many species, juveniles resemble mature females. A bird bath or fountain provides water for drinking and bathing. This scrub jay is testing the depth of the water. Birds can't tell how deep water is, and they can drown, especially when soaking wet. The average songbird has between 1,500 and 4,000 feathers of 6 specialized types. Birds will fly into a tree that's close by after their bath and preen, meaning they go over their feathers with their bills. Now listen to how similar a jay's call is to an acorn woodpecker's. These birds hammer holes in trees and stuff them with acorns, storing them as though in a pantry. Bluebirds will come to feeders if you provide mealworms during nesting season in late winter and spring. Bluebirds often come to the fountain in the afternoon in family groups. Scaly-breasted munias, originally from Southeast Asia, have naturalized in southern and coastal California from the Bay Area south. Munias like to be near water, eat grass seeds, and weave tall, slender reeds into nests. This feeder offers grape jelly in a trough of water for birds to drink and that keeps ants out. Orioles are streamlined for efficient flight. They arrive around Easter, nest in tall palm trees, raise 2 broods, then return to Mexico after Labor Day. They're not especially clever like jays, but they do have loads of personality. I don't want birds to become dependent on my feeders, so I provide food only once a day, early in the morning, so they'll also forage for themselves. And that way there's nothing sitting out to attract insects or varmints. I bring feeders inside in the evening and clean and fill them for the following day. Titmice, which are mouse-sized and make a sound like rusty scissors, suggest to me Disney birds because of their large eyes, small bills, and jaunty crests. They'll sometimes nest in birdhouses, but prefer cavities in oak trees. These are scrub jay fledglings. How can I tell? Well, the corners of their mouths are prominent, their feathers fluffy, their head and shoulders more gray than blue, and yet to grow white eyebrows. This is their first summer, They'll molt into brighter plumage in the fall. Do they look like adolescent gang members to you? They do to me. Scrub jays are especially persistent. Yes, they're beautiful, but also bold and smart. I tried deterring this one with a hose, but it simply shook off the water and hopped back to eat all the food. Once jays want something, they're relentless. That trait inspired me to see how long it would take jays and other birds to get to their favorite foods if I made it more challenging. Orioles took longer, probably because most of their brains are taken up with GPS. And a sweet little nuthatch was the slowest, but he finally figured it out. Nuthatches forage for insects in the bark of trees, especially our native oaks. They have a distinctive way of hopping downward with their heads arched back so their gaze is level. The bewick's wren is known for the beauty of its song. This one comes to my feeders for suet and fallen seeds. Nesting birds are territorial and want private airspace, so I don't place birdhouses near feeders. The elevation of the box and the size of its hole matter, and every species has its own preferences. If I don't recognize a bird, I zoom in on it as tightly as I can with my phone's camera. Even though the image may be blurry, it's often still identifiable. It's counterintuitive, but you don't have to be quiet when watching birds. They don't pay much attention to noise. However, they do scatter at even the slightest movement. Their biggest fear is being snatched by a stealthy predator, a hawk or a cat. Ideally, sit still until you're no longer considered a threat and birds just go about their business. That can take 5 minutes or more, but then all sorts of cool stuff happens, like this impatient goldfinch pulling the tail of a feeder-hogging house finch. Let's see it again. Haven't we all known people like that? During mating season, a California towhee saw his reflection on the underside of my outdoor glass table. Testosterone kicked in, and the bird thought it was a rival that needed to be dispatched. He jumped again and again, banging his bill on the glass until the sun moved, and his reflection went away. Such behavior doesn't seem to harm towhees and is common. Occasionally, towhees are outraged by a car's side mirror, which would be hilarious if the birds didn't leave a mess down the door. Doves are the rabbits of the bird world. Everything from hawks to humans eat them. They have as many as 6 broods a year and are found everywhere in the U.S. and Mexico. The ooh, ooh, ooh is a male dove trying to attract a mate. And that's why they're called mourning doves. It's kind of a sad, crying sound. Listen for the mourning dove in this video of cedar waxwings eating pyracantha berries. Waxwings rarely visit my garden, but when they do, they come in a flock and feed frantically. They look like they're dressed for a masquerade ball. I found it endearing that during a rainstorm, a flock of lesser goldfinches took shelter under my home's eaves. The ones with black caps are males. Next to them is a birdcage bird feeder. This is just off my deck, outside my kitchen window. After experimenting with numerous homemade feeders, I've decided I prefer ornamental wire bird cages, especially for finches and titmice, because these also are barrier feeders. Wires that are about an inch apart keep out larger birds like crows and jays. This one has shelled raw sunflower seeds in glass votive cups in a thrift store candle holder that I spray painted white to go with the cage. The other has black sunflower seeds in the shell, which titmice prefer. People who visit are intrigued when they see wild birds voluntarily enter and exit cages. It never gets old. You might like to see a bird feeder I made that went viral on Facebook with over 13 million views. Such a shame it wasn't monetized. It happened like this. I went to a thrift store with my husband looking for items to repurpose as bird feeders, and he noticed a bin of brand new bras. He picked one up and said, "What about this?" I gave him a withering look, and then I thought, why not? Well, this was the result. Comments included, "Great video, Deb Bra," capital B-R-A, and "This wouldn't work with my bra. The birds would starve to death." So what I attract to my garden and enjoy and have a relationship with, you can do in yours as well if you live in this region, which is a significant part of the United States. I'm in the foothills northeast of San Diego, but regardless of where you live, you can easily achieve something similar. Wild birds are everywhere, and even common ones are marvelous. Common doesn't mean boring. For additional information and links to my YouTube bird videos, my preferred seeds and sources, binoculars, reference books, and apps, see the info that accompanies this video or go to my website and type birds in the search bar. I'm Deborah Lee Baldwin. Thank you for joining me.